Hey, Science Nines, Manchak here to talk to you a little bit about peregrine falcons. In the video lesson I recorded for Concept C5, I did mention that I would record another small video to show you guys and talk to you a little bit about peregrine falcons and how they relate to what we're talking about. one of the concepts that we were talking about in this unit is the idea of biomagnification and the effects of biomagnification. And we have talked about it a few times throughout the course of the unit in talking about DDT, one of the harmful pollutants that was used, sort of, let's say, from World War II up into the early 80s. And it had a major impact on peregrine falcons. And I wanted to highlight this because we have a local connection to the recovery efforts for peregrine falcons, and it's something that I think we should know a little bit more about. So what I have is a very short presentation that I give my students in outdoor education about peregrine falcons before we go and visit actually a couple who actually raise peregrine falcons for release, but also for falconry, which is hunting using peregrine falcons. So I'm going to open up the PowerPoint that I use for this, and we'll have a quick look at what's up with peregrine falcons. I'm going to move my thing up to the top right here so that I don't interrupt too much of what's going on, particularly the picture. So just to give you an idea, peregrine falcons are large falcons, and all falcons are birds that are specialized for hunting other birds, usually while flying. Things like hawks, eagles, right, other raptors like that, they tend to hunt by coming from above and grabbing something. And there's some hawks like the Cooper's hawk or the northern goshawk, which are woodland hawks that actually hunt flying through forests, and they have special wings adapted to allow them to, fly in and around trees and even grab things off of trees and branches as they go by. But peregrines and other falcons are designed for hunting in the air while flying and catching other birds. So they eat pretty much exclusively other birds. What's really cool about peregrine falcons is they can reach ridiculously fast speeds, upwards of and above 300 kilometers an hour in a dive, making them the fastest bird we have here on Earth. And so what they usually do is when a peregrine usually flies up high, flap, 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 way up high, looking for something down below to catch. And when they see it, they go into a dive. And when they go into a dive, they tuck their wings back behind them, and they turn into a little torpedo that goes shooting down at the unsuspecting bird below, ducks and other things like that. And when they make impact with it, if that doesn't kill the bird, then they have a really sharp beak that allows them to finish the bird off, usually going for the spinal cord or something along those lines. Why I'm talking about peregrine falcons today is because of what happened to them starting in about the 1950s, 60s, up to the mid 70s and into the 80s. There were, we estimate, around 3,800 pairs of peregrine falcons nesting in North America in the 1940s. So let's say World War II era, somewhere around there. And what happened in that time is by the mid-1970s, the population of peregrine falcons had dropped so drastically that in 1978, Canada listed them as an endangered species. And it got so bad that there was concerns that we might actually see the peregrine falcons go extinct. But what we were able to do is to link the decline in peregrine falcons through lots of research and studying these birds. The decline was linked to something called DDT, or dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane. That's a mouthful. If you take Chem 30, we'll learn, how to draw something like that. DDT was a pesticide that was sprayed all over the place in North America, Central America, across the world to control pest insects. It was great. You create a fog out of it, it gets over top of the area where all the insects are, and it kills the insects. It's fantastic. And the photo that you can see here is showing actually a truck that is releasing DDT to an area beside a park, I would assume, to keep the mosquito population under control so that people don't have to deal with mosquitoes. Well, problem with that is, well, first off, problem with this is I don't think I would be that kid running behind a truck spraying pesticides, but hey, you know, people do that. What happened is we started to see a decline in peregrine falcons. And so we started to study, well, where was this peregrine falcon decline coming from? Remember, peregrine falcons sit up at the top of the food chain. And so they are eating things that have eaten things that have eaten things that have eaten those bugs that were killed by those pesticides. And so what's happened is that pesticide has bioaccumulated, right, or biomagnified up the food chain, so that when peregrine falcons start to eat those birds that have been eating the things that have been eating the insects, all of a sudden we end up with an issue where the peregrine falcons have a lot of DDT inside them. One of the main things it does is if it didn't kill the peregrine falcon itself, the adult peregrine falcon, what ended up happening is it thinned the shells of the peregrine falcon's eggs. So when a mother peregrine falcon would lay eggs, the eggs would be very thin-shelled, and what would end up happening is that would make it very difficult for the embryo and fetus to develop inside that egg. And so what ended up happening is we had generations and years and years and years of no or very few young peregrine falcons being born as a result of the effects of DDT. It took a while for it to magnify up the food chain, but once it got there, we saw a massive decline in those peregrine falcons as time went by. Luckily, we were able to figure out that DDT was the culprit, and we were able to develop a plan that actually allowed us to get the peregrine falcons recovered to the point where they are no longer listed as an endangered species here in Canada, and that you can go out and easily find, or relatively easily find, peregrine falcons in the wild today. So humans stepped in and we made a mistake, and we found a way to correct the problem. And I think this is the positive message that we can take from peregrine falcons, is that when we took the time to figure out what was going on, find out the source of the problem, and deal with it, all of a sudden we were able to make big changes and they were able to recover. I think we can think of lots of other organisms around the earth, or even other situations around the earth where we know what the problem is, we just need to take action as a group of human beings, as a planet, to make this happen. So here's what they did, and I've got a short video that I hope will play. If it doesn't, I'll find a way to link it up to you. The video depicts a couple of people from the area around Riley, in particular in Beaver County. Their names are, well, the one gentleman you'll see is Phil Treffry, and Phil Treffry and his wife Helen live just west of Tofield on a little acreage that they have out there, probably more like a farm out there. And Phil and Helen raise peregrine falcons and were heavily involved in the breeding program that was in operation in Wainwright. And the other person that you'll see is Jeff Holroyd. And Jeff Holroyd was, until he retired, involved with the Canadian Wildlife Service and had a lot to do with peregrine falcons as well. So hopefully if I click on this link, it'll work. And I can't find the file. Okay, give me a second, I'm going to pause. So I found the file, but I think what's going to be easiest when I think about it is for you to, I'll link the file up onto the Google Classroom, and you guys can have a look at it. It's an old video, it's pretty low quality, but watch out for Phil Treffry and Jeff Holroyd and what they did with respect to the Wainwright breeding facility, which has since closed, and the results of what's going on with the peregrine falcons and what ended up happening. So it's good information for you guys to have. Like I said, this whole video is just more information for you, something that you can watch along the way if you'd like to. I find it interesting. It's a positive story that I think we can take a lot of learning from and understanding how, if we can band together and understand what's causing problems, and listen to the scientists and what they're talking to us about, and the information that they're presenting to us, we can come up with a plan that will allow us to take a species back from the brink of extinction and make it so that we can find those organisms in the wild today. Hey, maybe it can even help us tackle climate change. Listen to the scientists and understand what they're saying and how they are talking about the kinds of things that are going on in our environment and how we can solve it. So, I will link the video that I wasn't able to show you onto the Google Classroom so you can track that down. And I hope that this has been a little bit informative, gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on with peregrine falcons. As always, if you have questions, track me down online, fire me an email, and I will talk to you again real soon. See ya.